Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video we're going to be creating our next page in our magazine journal, and we're going to be using the last free gift from the Creative Stamping magazine, and this is called Beneath the Waves. So we created an underwater scene for our first card that we created with this stamp set. It did also come with that embossing folder, but I'm probably not going to use that actually in our journal for today's page. And I think I'm just going to create a really lovely underwater scene here, and I feel like lately I haven't really been using my alcohol markers a lot, and I really want to sort of sit down and create a scene and just kind of colour it in, so it is going to be more of a flat image. So because I'm going to be using my alcohol markers, I'm going to be stamping in my Memento ink today, and I've got then just a bunch of acrylic blocks as well, just so we can stamp out images, because obviously this isn't going to fit into my stamping platform. So we are going to be starting on this page today. Obviously we filled up those pages with the last issue of Die Cutting Essentials, so now we are starting a clean page, and I kind of want to get sort of as many of these sort of in here as possible. So I think I want to get my mermaid just down here in the corner. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to kind of picture my scene coming together. I'm just going to lay out my stamped images. So I think I kind of want to use maybe not both, but either of these Stampendous images here. So we've got our octopus and we've got this jellyfish. I think I might kind of go with the jellyfish, with the octopus, maybe just coming in from the side, because I still want to be able to fit a lot of the other kind of creatures in here. So we do have these kind of weeds. This is a full stamp, so this isn't to be coloured, but I might stamp this when I've finished with my alcohol markers, just in a colour or maybe just in black, and kind of have that at the bottom. Then, so we've got a fish, we have got our turtle, so we could kind of just bring that in. We have got our dolphins as well, but I'm not sure if that's going to be a little much in there. Obviously we want to get our fish in, so we want it to be kind of a really full sort of animal scenes. So the one thing I would say that I wished is that some of the animals were kind of going the opposite way, so we could have them kind of, you know, intermingle. You know, we could add in our seahorse, but I don't want it to be kind of too crowded where it starts to look maybe a little unrealistic. But I think, you know, we could kind of have that. I might even add maybe some rocks, just draw some rocks in, because she is sat on a rock. So I could do that, and maybe even have the turtle kind of poking out from those rocks maybe. But I think we'll have sort of something along those lines. So I need to get my biggest acrylic block to stamp our mermaid. So let's just ink her up. And let's kind of bring her in kind of just there. So what I've also got as well is an extra little book just underneath this, just so I've got something to press against. So hopefully we have got a good stamp there, but we are sort of missing that detail. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to line this back up. Okay, so we might have to just draw in some of that detail. So I'm just going to bring back my outline, and I'm just going to kind of draw in just with my pencil. But what I can do then is just go over this with a black marker kind of when I'm finished. So let's just draw her back in. So we've got then the back of her swimsuit. And I think that is kind of good enough just to fill in that rest of the detail. Like I said, I can go back over it with a black marker once I have coloured it in. But for now, that is our mermaid. So what I am going to do just while I am here, so like I said, we've got our rock here that she's kind of sat on. So what I could do is just kind of come in, you know, sort of down here and kind of carry on that kind of rock face. So I'm just going to add sort of a little bit of, so I'm not sure how much of that you can really kind of see on camera, but of course when I come to actually colouring this in, I can sort of add more details into this, so you've just got some sort of slight details here. So what I can do is add in some of these other images as well. So if I just take a scrap here and just make it look like they're kind of sat on the rock, or they're like attached to the rock. So let's add that sort of shell there. And we can add this shell. And let's just pop, I'm just adding this scrap piece of paper just so I don't stamp over onto the other page. We can kind of add that there, and then we can add a few other bits and pieces, a little bit of colour maybe in there as well. Okay, so that is that side. So let's move to this other side. So we have got our octopus to stamp. And again then, I'm just going to have my piece under there just to allow for some pressure. Let's try and stamp all of this the first time. Just like so. So again, we can just fill in that little piece of kind of detail there. Just like that. If you are missing any sections, just kind of fill it in. So that is our octopus. Then we can stamp our dolphins. So I think we're just going to have our dolphins. Let's bring back our scrap. So we're going to have our dolphins kind of coming in again from the side. So hopefully without moving my block, I can stamp that. Okay, so we've got our turtle. So I'm going to have the turtle come in out from behind our rock. So all I'm going to do is just add my scrap piece of card there. Let's have him just kind of coming up. Like that, so he's just coming out from behind that piece of rock. And then I think we'll just add a couple of fish in here as well. So let's go one just there. And then we can do one sort of coming slightly more off the page. So we've just got the tail. So that's the images that I'm going to stamp for the moment. So you might think this looks a bit like a hot mess. You might quite be right, but hopefully when we start colouring this in, it's hopefully just going to come together really, really nicely. What I think I'm going to do actually is extend our kind of rocks from this side, because she is kind of sort of sat there. So, and we do have this kind of gap here. So I was going to stamp our image here for those kind of weeds and things like that, and I might still do that, but I just think I'm going to add kind of behind this just to kind of fill up some of this space here. And our octopus is actually going to be sat sort of in front of it, so we can just add, you know, sort of a few bit details there. And again, it's just going to create more of a scene here. So this is the perfect way of using your stamp. So especially with the creative stamping, you do have an A4 stamp set. There's always so many stamps to create really great scenes. And then, you know, this is the kind of thing that they are perfect for. So just put them all into one image. They all work so well together. But now what I'm going to do is just start to colour this in. Like I said, I'm going to use my alcohol markers. I've got a combination of my Copic sketch that I've got the tri-blends, I've got some Nuvo, and of course then I've got my Prism craft markers as well. And yeah, let's get started colouring in this scene. Okay, so there we have coloured in our sort of canyons. So I think this has come together really nicely. I've tried to add sort of as much detail for some ledges and things like that as possible. But what I'm going to do now is just take a fine liner pen and I'm going to kind of fill the outline out, and then just a little bit more detail like you've got in the stamped image here. So I'm going to kind of come over sort of as best I can. So I'm not too worried if I don't get it perfect. Obviously, you know, we all kind of colour out the lines and things like that. So I'm just going to kind of really roughly, you know, kind of add in these, and it's just going to help sort of fit in then with the rest of the images. And then by colouring this first of all, it's just going to give us kind of some of those more wobbly edges, which is going to fit in, I think, a little bit better with the kind of style of the images. So let's just run down this side. Like I said, I'm trying to copy how I have coloured. So kind of just using those sort of in and out bits just to make it look a little more rocky. So just like that. And then with this image here, what we do have, of course, is then just some of these lines and things just to add a little more detail. So let's just sort of go in and kind of add some lines. Hopefully it's not going to kind of make it look messy or anything like that. So where we've got some sort of, I've tried to make it look like we've got some rocks and things like that, then I'm just going to add, you know, just like a little bit of, I don't know, sort of detail in there and there. Hopefully that's going to kind of, again, make it look like it is the sort of rocks in there. So any bits where I've kind of jutted it out, you know, a bit of freehand, bit of freestyling sort of going on here, anywhere where they've got, you know, just a little bit of shadow in there. Okay, so I'm happy with that side. So hopefully that just makes it look a little bit more realistic. Let's just come over to this side. So we'll add a little something. So I'm just kind of doing more of a, I guess, more of a kind of scribbled type of look. So you can have that one. Then I can just have a little extra just there. Let's just go in sort of around the mummy, because we do have some down here where she sat, so I have a little bit there. Let's sort of do this ledge just here. And then we'll sort of do that little bit there. So I'm happy with how that looks. Again, we're just trying to make it look a little bit more realistic. So now we've kind of got that background. We are going to colour in the background in blue, of course. But what I'm going to do is just colour in some of the other images, and then we can kind of do that background last. Okay, so there we've got all of our images now coloured in, so I'm going to go ahead and create the background scene, and what I'm going to try my best to do is to add some sort of darker colours down here, as if, you know, this is sort of the darker section of the sea, and try and go a lot lighter, maybe try to do some rays coming down possibly, but we will sort of see exactly what happens. But let's get started actually colouring in our background. Okay, so there is our finished scene, and I'm super happy with how this has come out. So we do of course have that blue background. You could kind of do a light layer over everything else just to give it the illusion that it is underwater. But to be honest, I'm happy with kind of how it is. I don't really want to touch it and kind of ruin all of the time and effort that I put into colouring this in. But I'm so happy with how this turned out. Like I said, at the beginning, you might think, oh, that looks like a hot mess. But really, if you just go with it and work at it and just, you know, kind of really see where it takes you, you can create something really, really amazing. And just because there isn't any scenery stamps within your stamp set doesn't mean that you can't draw it. And you really don't have to be a fantastic drawer. I'm certainly not, and that's why I like using stamps so much. But you know, you can just create some really basic scenes behind, because all I really did was just decide where I wanted the rocks to be. And then I just used just a combination of alcohol markers and just added some really kind of basic shading. It might really not look like much when you look at it sort of close up, but you know, it's just then how you sort of colour it. Again, I've just gone in literally with that black marker and really just in random places. So again, it might not look realistic, but I actually think it looks pretty great, sort of just how it is. So the last thing I'm going to do to this here, actually there's two things I'm going to do. So I'm not necessarily going to add a sentiment because I don't think it needs it. There's two things I'm going to do. I'm going to take a white gel pen and I'm just going to add some gel details in here just to kind of lift it up a little bit, make it look a little bit more cartoony. And then there are just a couple of stamps within the stamp set that I do want to kind of stamp just to add something interesting to our background. So you can see I've added in just some white gel pen down the bottom. I'm simply just going to come in, and I'm not really too worried about kind of how realistic this might actually look, but I'm just going to kind of add some highlights where I think it looks good, to be honest with you. So let's add some to this first. We've got just a combination of lines and dots and things, but you can really sort of do what you want here. So then for our dolphins, we're just going to come down the fin. So just there, let's just do a couple, you know, and I say it doesn't really need to be kind of any more than that. I am just going to add some highlights onto our rocks as well. So again, nowhere specific, just kind of where I want to. Okay, so the few stamps I want to add to the background is we have got some fish in here, which I think are pretty cool. So we're going to add this to an acrylic block. So I want this to fit in with the background. I'm just going to stamp this in a little bit of a salty ocean. So this might not stamp kind of perfectly, but I don't want it to kind of stand out too much. Whoops, it is in the background. So let's just move that. It doesn't need to be like completely in focus. Let's bring this back, just do some off the page there. Let's just do some there. So again, it just sort of fills in that background quite nicely, just to sort of make it look like you've got a bit more sort of going on there. So then we also have these bubbles. And I thought they might just sort of look nice, but what I'm actually going to do with these, I'm just going to stamp this in a clear embossing ink, because I just want it to kind of sit on the surface. So I'm just going to kind of do one there, and you're only really going to be able to kind of faintly see it, but again, it's just going to add a little bit more interest. Let's keep it that way. So we'll stamp it there. And then let's just come down a little bit and we'll just stamp maybe just a few there. So we don't need kind of the whole of the stamp to be seen, but just again, sort of that little bit of highlight sort of in that background. But I'm super happy with how this has turned out. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I love sitting down and colouring. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't feel like I was kind of doing a lot of that. That's why I really wanted to do this with this particular stamp set. But yeah, I'm so happy with how this has turned out. So the only real downside to this is something that I never really checked beforehand, but I probably should have. So this paper, as it turns out, yes, it's mixed media, but it is not designed for alcohol colouring straight onto it. So if we turn back to the last project that we did with the die cutting essentials, obviously you can see where I've gone quite heavy. So you can see this section here is where we've got this dark colour in here. It has pulled through to the other side. So if I was to do this again, maybe I would cut a page to the same size and then just stick it in afterwards. So it doesn't have to be on here, but I know for next time now. I love creating sort of scenes and things like this. So yeah, definitely not going to be doing that again. But that is our page for the creative stamping using Beneath the Waves stamp set. Really happy with how this has turned out. Urge you to have a go at just creating big scenes. Like I said before, it could start as a hot mess, but it could turn out into something really fabulous. So that is it for this video. If you have enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. The next page we're going to be creating in our journal is going to be using the Zest for Life set from the latest issue of Simply Cards and Papercraft. So again, if you want to see that video, make sure you hit that notification bell so you are notified when that video is uploaded. So that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.